Right, so we continue with our special coverage here on the SABC. Of course, on Constable Keamogetswe Buys funeral service will be taking place in Bloemfontein. Will be buried in Thaba Nchu today. Now, the 30-year-old Buys was one of the 3 police officers whose bodies were retrieved from the Hennops River in Centurion in Gauteng. We have Chriselda Lewis as well as Kamogelo Seekeoi who's going to be bringing us live coverage as the day progresses. Kamogelo, if you can hear me, let's start with you before we bring Chriselda into the conversation. I dare say good morning, given the circumstances, but obviously as family and friends come to pay their last respects, perhaps also seek closure as they say their final goodbyes to Keamogetswe Buys. Tell us what is happening, perhaps as you are at the family house.
In fact, Liesl, I'm standing outside the matrimonial home of Constable Keamogetswe Buys here in Phase 3 in Bloemfontein, and I am in conversation with the mother-in-law as well as her sisters who've had spent time with Constable Buys over the past 2 years. As you know, that she was the married constable in out of the 3 constables who were involved in that accident where their bodies were recovered from the Hennops River. I just want to bring in one of the husband's aunts, Tabise, just to talk to us today as you stand here waiting for the cortege to come, for Constable Buys to come and pass here. Maikutlo lona keng jaaka le lelapa le metse ngwetsi ya lona e tle go feta mo gae.
Okay, ke a leboga. O itse hona jwale ne re sa lebella mo ge re ka tlo ema so re lebeletse for o tla a thotse. Maikemisetso a rona e ne le gore re tlo mo lebella, re tlo mo apesa, re mo gosa dintho tsa hae, re mo fa setso sa rona jalo ka ngwetsi ya rona, re mo rata, re mo jwalo ka ne re mo phela le yena, re mo tlwaetse. Re bohloko haholo gore ebe no re mo emetse because a sa thotse.
Lisa, the aunt is just explaining there that in their tradition, you know, they would have expected to welcome her as their daughter-in-law and dress her in their traditional attire, you know, to welcome her home. But in this moment, they are actually waiting for her to go and lay her to rest, which is something that is rather painful for them as a family. I know that the husband has not really been saying much, but today is it's the final day. It's the day that we lay Constable Buys to rest. How is he feeling?
Yo, ha ke batlo bua maka ke letsatsi le bohloko haholo. Hobaneng matsatsi a mabedi a fitileng a ona ntse sa kgone ho bua le rona, re mmona mo mahlong fela gore wa sebakeng walla every day, every night. So today re tlo le ka mo tshetsa ka hohle because ke letsatsi le leng hore finally it was sinka mo yena gore jwale o a kgona le yena subsidies. Yes.
Lisa, she's explaining there that, the husband who hasn't really been, talking to the media since this incident started from when the constables went missing. They have been observing him throughout this past few days, and he's also not been talking to the family, but they have been observing him that he's actually been crying each and every night, as you can imagine, a young husband losing a wife, but as I mentioned before, the cortege is expected to come pass by here at the family home, and from there it will be going to the Grasslands community hall where my colleague Chriselda Lewis is standing by to give you more information about what is happening on that side. We are also expecting that the Deputy Minister for Police, Kasamatali, will also be in attendance at the funeral this morning. With that, is back to you.
Thank you, Kamogelo, for bringing us that update. From Kamogelo, let's go to Chriselda Lewis, of course, is at the community centre where the funeral service is going to be taking place. Chriselda, perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about, what we can expect ahead of the official program as they lay Constable Keamogetswe Buys to rest.
Well, that's right, Liesl. You did mention how young she was, but Constable Keamogetswe Buys was born on the 29th of August 1994. You did mention that she was 30 years old, and years later in her adult life, we hear that she had pursued a graphic design, multimedia and web programming. She successfully completed those studies in 2019, we understand, but she was drawn to a strong sense of duty and community, we're told. So Constable Buys joined the South African Police Service in 2023. That's what we hear, where she served her country with pride, integrity and unwavering commitment until her untimely passing, we're told by her colleagues and friends. And her colleagues knew her as a disciplined and humbled officer who basically led with kindness and served with purpose. Those are some of the tributes we've already heard. So beyond her professional and academic qualifications, we understand that Constable Buys was also very warm in her presence and in particular in the lives of many. We're expecting those tributes to resonate here at the funeral service, which is going to take place at the Grasslands Community Hall. And amongst the speakers, we're expecting some family members, and you would know that this is, of course, an official funeral. So the coffin will obviously be draped with the national flag, and that will happen as her remains arrive here at the hall for this funeral service. So we'll start with the program where the family will pay tribute, and after that we will go to the church service, and then it will be handed over to the South African Police Service. That's of course the proceedings to allow for them to bury her with this, officially in terms of, how police officers, are sent off with their colleagues, of course, sending some tributes as well. We're expecting, of course, senior members of the South African Police Service, as they have been attending the two other funeral services that took place, as you correctly pointed out. It has been the funeral services since Thursday of the 3 police officers that were found, whose bodies were retrieved from the Hennops River. So this is the last of that. Constable Keamogetswe Buys will be, the funeral service will take place here, but her remains will be taken to Thaba Nchu for burial.
All right, Chriselda, thank you for that update. Of course, as that funeral proceedings gets underway, we'll continue to monitor as family and friends, colleagues alike come to pay their last respects.